Hello and welcome to the Believe in Duke podcast. I'm Steve Wiseman, the Duke beat writer for the Raleigh News and Observer, joined as always by show co-host Sheldon Williams, the landlord, who we both watched probably the best performance of the year by the Blue Devils in Atlanta on Saturday against Georgia Tech. They won by 43 points. Still glowing after seeing such a great performance. Sheldon, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. I mean, it's only right for our Duke team to actually have a good performance while we're both in attendance. So
Exactly.
that's pretty cool. So maybe we need to be in attendance a lot more often. So started a new streak of winning games especially on the road as well. So, but yeah, maybe that's the case.
I have to ask: is that the first game your fiance has seen in person, or
No? We actually went to the Ohio State because she's an Ohio State grad.
okay?
So we went to Ohio State game last year at Ohio State,
And that was a loss. Yeah. So
yeah. So it was we were winning most of the game, and all of a sudden, I'm like, all right, let's go ahead and start beating traffic. And then I get to the car, and I'm like, what
happened?
happening? Like, yeah.
Well, that wasn't the case yesterday.
No.
There was traffic to beat, but Duke was so far in front. I was going to say she brought really good luck. If that was the first game she saw with you in person, first Duke game, you're gonna have to get her all the games. But she saw a heck of a performance. We all did. That was quite a game. Duke won 43 points. Only the third time that Duke has won an ACC road game by 40 or more points
in Duke history. Yeah,
in Duke history, which is there's a lot of wins in there. That was the second highest margin of victory in a road game in conference play.
Right.
Back in '99, this is courtesy of the Mike DeGeorge and the Duke staff. Duke won 100-54 over UVA up in Charlottesville. So that was a 46-point margin. So 43 still. To double up a team like that on the road in conference play is quite the performance.
I think the other one was Wake Forest, I believe.
It was, that was the other one by 40. Yeah, that was like back in the 50s, I think. So
something like that. Yeah.
So speaking of Wake Forest, that's the next team up on Tuesday night, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Before we go any further, I do want to remind everybody that Believe in Duke podcast is sponsored by Bet Online. They've been a sponsor of the podcast from nearly the very beginning of it. And we appreciate them. BetOnline.ag. BetOnline remains the number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. Everything from the NFL playoffs, as we're getting ready for the Super Bowl here, to pro and college basketball, UFC, MMA, and more. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at betonline.ag with live betting options, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. BetOnline is truly the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite leagues and events. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure you use the promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your rewards. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. The Blue Devils started off red hot yesterday.
Back-to-back threes by Roach.
Boom, boom to start the game.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, Flip hit one, Lively hit one. It was like 19-9 before a lot of people were settled in their seats, right? So
right.
It's kind of what we talked about the previous game at Virginia Tech and all that. When you're playing a team like Georgia Tech, which is at the bottom of the standings, have a losing record overall, they're not going anywhere. You come out and knock them in the mouth and hope that they'll kind of wilt. And that's clearly what the Blue Devils did on Saturday.
Yeah. We kind of had a conversation when we met at halftime. And the thing that I was telling you, I was like, well, we were pretty much handling this game. And then all of a sudden, I was thinking around the 4 minutes mark, left in the first half, Tech cut it to 7. Yeah. And I'm like, no, I know we're a young team. We have to develop that killer instinct where we see, that the team is kind of like, just in a bad place. And you just want to go ahead and just, take out any kind of hopes that they may have. And that was something I was kind of looking at like, well, I was expecting them to kind of make that next jump, and it didn't happen. And then John calls a timeout, and then we wind up going on a 13-2 run.
13-2 run to end the half.
13-2 run in the half. And then to start the second half was a 19-3 run. So I was like, all right, they got it in them. It's just that they're a young team. And I was just expecting that to happen before they cut it to 7 with 4 minutes to go in the first half. And then like John called a timeout, which is a great time. I got the guys kind of regrouped, and they jumped up to the next level after that.
Yeah, and he said after the game, when I asked him about the spurts, he said, the team has had spurts of good offense this year, just not for 40 minutes, right? Not like that. This was the best shooting performance of the year, 55.7%, easily far and away the best shooting game Duke's had all year. And he mentioned that stretch at the end of the first half. He said, look right there, it's back to 7 points. If we don't handle things right, it could be a tie game at halftime or 3-point game, whatever. He said, you don't imagine you can push it back up to 18, right? In the last 4 minutes there, 13-2 run, but that's what the team did. That's what they handled their business very well. Very, almost it was mature the way they handled it for a team that's frankly, very young. A lot of time there, they had 5 freshmen on the court when Jaden Schutt was playing.
Right.
That was another 5 freshman lineup without Whitehead.
Right. So that was different too. I mean, we had a shoot sighting as well. Unfortunately, he missed his first couple of threes and everything, but that's kind of nerves and his first time playing real significant minutes, in the ACC game. So I get that, but it was just great to see him out there and getting his feet wet and everything. Hopefully that this kind of gives him confidence and he kind of settled down next game if he plays and kind of take a deep breath and he's able to hit those shots, especially in the corners. Because I was watching him in halftime and when I was warming up, and he can hit that shot. It's just that I'm sure with all the emotions going into his first real big game, that played a factor in there as well.
And you were down there behind the bench. Of course, I was press row at Georgia Tech's kind of up high, but we're looking at the bench area, me and some other couple of writers, and noticed that before Jaden went in, Carrawell kind of went over to him and grabbed him on the shoulder and kind of like, okay, man, this is your time. This is it,
Right,
is it.
right.
So I'm sure you're right. He was kind of hyped up, and I'm sure they wanted to pump him up, but also keep him calm.
Right.
Hard to do, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's kind of a give and take with the the medium and trying to go back and forth, whatever. But I will say, yes, I was behind the bench, and I will say, watching them on TV and watching them that close, and I know Georgia Tech is a smaller team, but I was like, man, we are really long and really athletic, and I'm looking at it like from. I was like, I think it was the second row, whatever it was. And
Yeah.
I'm like, man, like the TV does not do these guys justice because these guys are long, athletic. I mean, they're very skilled. I mean, they play a real good defensive game, pretty much all of them. And I was looking at that, firsthand, that close. And I'm like, all right, watching on TV is one thing, but the way they was playing and how they was towering over Georgia Tech guys, it was amazing to watch. I'm like, this is what people see, like, on a night in basis, night out basis and everything. I was like, that was very impressive for me to watch these guys, especially when it was compared against, Georgia Tech, because they're so much bigger and longer than these guys.
And it was obvious very early in the game. Georgia Tech wanted nothing to do with having the ball in the lane. They were going to shoot. They were going to settle for jumpers.
Right.
If they got in there at all, they quickly turned around to pass it back out. Nobody wanted to, to get it stuffed back in their face. Right. It was intimidating as heck.
Right. I mean, I think we went 44-12 in the paint. Like we were pretty much controlling the paint with our big guys. And I'm looking at them like 15-1 points off of turnovers, 24 assists off of 34 made field goals. We had 5 guys in double-digit scoring. Like I said, I mean, it's the best that we shot, 56, 57% from the field, 39 from 3. Like we look good, even though Georgia Tech is not a real good team. That was a game that we needed to have that confidence, kind of go back for us. And I think that's the thing that we took away from that game, where our young guys felt confident and we were playing well on both ends of the game, on both sides of the ball.
And what did you think of the passing, the way Duke moved the ball? A lot of times the ball never, the ball never hit the court, right? It was just boom, boom.
Right. You could tell that was the emphasis of this game because, Georgia Tech was trying to keep, even though they was outsized, they were trying to play zone. And a lot of times we was over skipping the ball. And it was like when I was in school, Coach K called it the hockey pass. It wasn't the assist. It was the assist to the assist, the pass to the assist, whatever, that wind up getting that extra shot. And people who are getting these extra shots are all a part of, and involved with the offensive game plan. And you will see a lot more players go off on that, which is why we have 5 guys in double figures, and Lively had 9. But, that could have been a double figure game as well too. So
yeah,
potentially 6 guys with double figure guy, points for us.
And on the subject of Lively, after the game again, John Shire was, said he thinks he's about to springboard. He's about to launch. That he's showing more parts of his game on offense. He's been comfortable on defense, right? He's early in the year he had some trouble with fouls. He seems to have gotten away from that. I'm looking here. I think he had worse fouls. Crud. Oh well. He had 2 fouls. Yeah, sorry. He had 2 fouls yesterday. But he defended without fouling, right? For the most part, didn't get in foul trouble. And we saw the lob pass. He scored on that. A couple times he had offensive rebounds where he had to out muscle somebody for the ball, which frankly he hadn't been successful at that early in the year. And then he stepped out and made the 3. So he kind of showed a lot of things we hadn't seen before.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, this is a game that I think our guys drew a lot of confidence with, where especially with Lively, we knew what kind of player he was on the defensive end, but this is the best we saw him play offensively. I mean, we saw a 3-point shot from him, not 1, but 2. And this form looked good. We heard, at least I heard, that he's able to shoot that shot, but we haven't seen it.
Right.
But the form looked good, the way he released, and it was like a nice high release and everything. It looked like a good shot that he shot. And the fact that he's more confident and more comfortable, and you've seen that, I can see John saying that, oh, this is going to be a springboard for him. So hopefully that is the case, because the way he was looking, the way he was moving, even the way he was just kind of like just being aggressive around the ball, letting people bump him and everything, but he's still coming away with the ball. I'm like, all right, this is a guy that he might have gotten it, kind of like, similar to what Mark Williams was towards the end of his freshman year, where all of a sudden, boom, he's gotten, the light went off. It's just boom, light went off. He's there. And then hopefully this is the case, and we'll see, Wake Forest next game, and see if he's able to back it up.
Yeah, and back to the passing, and he's part of that too. He's always been a very good, the ball doesn't usually get stuck with him. He moves it, he's able to kick it back out. Again, he's not a guy you throw the ball down the post and wait for him to maneuver and make a basket. He's more kind of zip here, zip there, maybe step out and make a play there. So Wake Forest plays some zone. They played some zone against Duke last time when they beat them. It was 81-70 that game in Winston right before Christmas. But because of Duke's shooting troubles, more teams, we've said zones what they're probably going to play, right? They're going to see a lot of zone.
Right.
And if the passing is like that, like it was at Georgia Tech, that's going to be a way for Duke to counteract that. And Lively's part of that with his awareness on the court and being more comfortable in the paint.
I agree. I mean, not just Lively. I think we have a very unselfish group, and that is what makes our team dangerous at any point, because we won't know exactly how we're going to play until we out there on the court. We know that Flip's going to do his thing. Flip's going to be a double figure guy regardless. They look for him. They kind of force feed him sometimes. But the fact that we have guys that are very unselfish, where they cutting, and like you said, Lively's over here looking over his shoulder. He's getting big to big passes to Flip, or he's going across court to the corner guy, which a lot of times either Mark Mitchell, or when Shoot got in the game, it was him as well. We have guys like Roach coming in and passing the ball up in transition, and then getting to the flow of offense. Like, we have a very unselfish group of guys. And I think once we learn how to win in tight situations, that's only going to make our team grow a lot faster and be better, in the long run.
Yeah. I mean, this speaks to the unselfishness right here. 24 assists on 34 field goals yesterday.
Right.
That's assisting on almost, it's like 70.6% of the shots. I mean, that's exceptionally high.
Amazing. Yes. Amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot to build off of that game. That is for sure. And it's what, everybody hoped would happen from a Duke point of view after the loss at Virginia Tech, that you come back and really, fight back hard and show you that you're much more than that. Right. I think we can say now, I know Virginia Tech has a bad conference record, but they're a lot better than Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is really a struggle.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, granted, VTech shot the ball lights out, against us and everything. So, Georgia Tech didn't have, that luxury, which I'm thankful for. But being there and watching these guys, they were really, really into the game. Just kind of listening to the conversations, and I was very impressed. Like young, Flip was frustrated at one point, and he kind of put his arm around Flip and kind of was talking to him and everything. Same way with Mark Mitchell. Mark Mitchell was in a situation where he was kind of just throwing his body over the court, all over the court. And I know he's a high motor guy and everything. He gets to the basket, and they weren't calling some of those. I was like, yeah, I understand why he's frustrated. But I saw him come to the bench, and Young is actually saying things, being that leadership on the bench as well. So I thought that was pretty cool, kind of seeing that, because I wouldn't have seen that on the TV, but being able to see it from behind the bench, I thought that was pretty cool. Of how that leadership is being portrayed and displayed on the bench, and players, even though they're young or maybe be starters, they're acceptive of the leadership that's being shown.
Right. Great point, because obviously Jeremy Roach is the only true captain, but somewhere along the way it's developed kind of maybe organically or whatever and it's important, this more than anybody, being as part of a team like that Ryan Young feels the freedom to assert some leadership and not worry that he's stepping on Jeremy's toes or whatever. And that in some locker rooms, you probably see that doesn't happen, does it?
No, not at all. I mean, and that speaks back to our guys being unselfish. Like at the end of the day, our guys, they want to play well, they want to win, and they're happy for each other. And I think, kind of a side note, I think that's a great thing when they do, after they win the game, they'll do that interview each other after the game in the locker room. And it's kind of fun, but it also shows that they're happy for the next person. So it could be anybody's day. And I think that's a great testament to our guys, how they are literally and genuinely there for each other.
Yeah. And as we get ready for the next stretch of games here, starting with Wake Forest, who the Deacons have lost 3 games in a row now after losing to NC State on Saturday. So, I mean, they already beat Duke in Winston. Now they got to come to Cameron, so it's going to be a whole different game. But literally a whole different game. But they're going to be hungry too, right? 3 losses in a row. They're ready to. They need this win to get their NCAA, hopes going again. And so Duke's got that one. The next game after that is Carolina coming into Cameron. Right. 2 days later, go to Miami, which is going to be really hard. Another because Miami, and then after that at Virginia. So. And we have plenty of episodes to talk about all those games, but I'm just saying this stretch of games now is crucial. It's going to determine whether Duke's going to be able to push back up, maybe toward the top 4 of the conference, or if they're going to be stuck in the middle and we're going to be looking at being an 8 or a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament. But with so much that went right on Saturday, you just hope that all that can move forward, all that the sharing of the ball and everything against Wake. As strong as Duke play defense, keeping Georgia Tech out of the lane, all those things are going to be important, particularly these next 4 games.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's easy to kind of get sucked into, all right, you have had success doing this, and then the next game, it may be a little bit rocky, and then all of a sudden you revert back to old ways and not just sticking with it. And I'm hoping that that's the case where these guys, especially these young guys, are sticking with what has happened over the last game. And hopefully we can have a chance where we have a game like we did last time, where it's both offense and defense. It wasn't just one or the other. So, we haven't had too many games like that. So being back at home next game, I'm hoping that it carries over, and then all of a sudden it develops into something that even, more habitual for us and everything. So that's the thing I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, against these better teams in the conference, you're going to have it. And
Correct.
Duke is 10-0 at Cameron this year. So home court, Coach K court's being protected. That's one thing they've done exceptionally well. And it's going to be really important this week with these 2 games with Wake and Carolina. One quick update on Dariq Whitehead. We saw him. He was on the court. He didn't dress for the game. He was out there doing warm-ups, doing a few things with the guys in kind of the early warm-ups, not the actual warm-ups that
the team warm-ups
were right before. Yeah, but some of the individual things guys do that early session. Which to me, he was out there with the ball dribbling. He wasn't shooting or anything, but he was, handling the ball, passing teammates for layups, and didn't show any limitations. I didn't see any, there was no boot on his ankle or anything like that.
Yeah, that was a big thing. I was looking at him on the bench. There was no boot. I was like, all right, maybe it's more being cautious than anything else, because he did have that injury at the beginning of the year. So
Yes.
I'm hoping that's the case, but it's even better because you was able to see him, at the early workout. So have him out there on the court with guys. So it's even giving us, more confidence that, they've been cautious, and, hopefully he gets back, maybe not this Carolina game, but, for the next one.
Yeah, I think that's it. And John said, they felt Durik had been practicing, right? Because he's resting that leg. So it sounds like it would be a long shot for him to play against Wake on Tuesday, because it's a short practice time anyway, but I think they want to be a little extra careful. So maybe I'm not ruling out the Carolina game is coming up here. Maybe possibly if they can get him back on the practice court, by Wednesday or Thursday as they start ramping up after the Wake game for that. And we'll have another episode before the Carolina game and have an update on that. But the bottom line is this isn't a serious long-term, going to keep him out for a month injury. It doesn't appear.
That's great news. Yes.
Yeah. I saw Jose Fonseca before the game, and I said, man, you're working magic. And he goes, I don't know if it's me, something's working magic, but as long as the progress continues, that kind of thing. So things are that was really, really good news for Duke, and they could obviously use a player like Tariq going forward here. So anyway, yes, big game with Wake coming up, revenge game at home.
At home, yep.
Everything points to a really strong performance for Duke, right? I mean, it really
that's the case. That's the case. It's down only on the other intangibles that we're young. So, but like I said, I'm hoping that things become more of a habit for us and everything, especially now that we're late in the year, that it reflects that. So we'll see. But we're at home. We have great fans, and some of the best fans in the world, if not the best fans in the world. So
yeah,
we're gonna have that place jumping, and hopefully John can get his track record back, against Wake Forest,
That's right. That's right. He was undefeated last year, filling in. Now he's going to get it going again. So we'll see about that. All right, everybody. We'll have another episode coming up after the Wake Forest game. It'll post on Friday, the day before the Carolina game. So we'll have plenty to break down from the Wake game, and looking forward to that first matchup with UNC as the rivalry in sports gets back going again for 2023. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks to Bet Online for sponsoring the Believe in Duke podcast. We appreciate it. Sheldon, any parting thoughts for the listeners as we get ready for Blue Devils and Wake Forest on Tuesday?
No parting thoughts. Hey, just continue to support us, and have a good weekend, and we'll see you next episode.
All right, very good, everybody. Join us next time. Thank you.